Ever wished you could just, like, stumble upon a hidden civilization? One untouched by all the, well, problems of our modern world? Well, that's exactly what we're diving deep into today, Sir Francis Bacon's New Atlantis.
And it's more than just some fantasy, really. Bacon, he was writing this back in the early 1600s, using this fictional island, Ben Salem, to almost like paint a picture of a perfect society, one built on reason, order, and this never-ending pursuit of knowledge.
Right, not just telling a story. It's more like he's laying down the blueprints, like this is what I think an ideal society could look like.
Exactly.
So, okay, picture this. A ship, totally lost at sea, just adrift in the middle of the Pacific. The sailors are terrified, low on supplies, expecting the worst.
You can practically taste the salt air, feel that desperation.
Yeah, exactly. And just when all hope seems lost, they spot it land, Ben Salem. But instead of, hostile natives or cannibals, they find, well, this.
That's not what they expect at all.
Not even close. These Ben Salemites are, well, strangely prepared.
To say the least.
I mean, first, they make the sailors swear this incredibly detailed oath. Like super intense, making sure they're not pirates or carrying any diseases. Then there's this whole thing with the conservator of health, this official who comes on board. Talk about intense.
Well, it might seem a bit much, but honestly, when you think about it, Bacon was way ahead of his time when it came to things like quarantine and disease prevention. He's basically outlining public health measures centuries before germ theory.
Right. It's like he knew things that, well, nobody back then really understood.
Exactly. And this meticulous focus on order, it's everywhere in Ben Salem. It's kind of their thing.
It's a little unnerving, but also kind of impressive. But, okay, beyond all the serious stuff, what really struck me were all these little details Bacon throws in. He describes buildings made of, get this, blue brick, windows made of something called oiled cambric, and everywhere, these bright scarlet oranges. It's so vivid.
It's like he wanted us to experience Ben Salem with all our senses. He really paints a picture, doesn't he?
He does. And speaking of experiencing things, we have to talk about the stranger's house.
Oh, yes.
It's where they take all the newcomers. Now, I know we talked about the whole quarantine thing, but this isn't some, like, dingy waiting room. It's this luxurious estate. They're waited on hand and foot with amazing food, including, of course, those scarlet oranges, which, by the way, they claim can cure practically anything.
Right. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, on the surface, it's about protecting their population, keeping diseases out.
Yeah.
But it's also a way for the Ben Salemites to, observe their guests, figure out what they're all about before really letting them in.
It's like, come for the 5-star accommodations, stay because you've accidentally spilled all your secrets during your 3-day fruit basket buffet.
Exactly.
But seriously, it does make you think, about that balance between individual freedom and, well, the collective good. Like, how much are you willing to give up for the order and prosperity that Ben Salem seems to have achieved?
It's a question that, well, we're still grappling with today, aren't we?
Definitely. But to really understand how Ben Salem works, we need to look beyond the fancy fruit and luxurious quarantine hotels. We need to talk about the heart of their society, this institution called Salomon's House. So we've talked about the Ben Salemites' almost, unnerving attention to detail, right? Their, obsession with hospitality. But let's get to the really cool stuff. Salomon's House. It's like their version of a research university, but, way cooler.
It's where all that Ben Salemite dedication to knowledge, to figuring out the secrets of the natural world, it all comes together. And nothing shows their reverence for knowledge better than the way the father of Salomon's house makes his entrance.
Oh, yeah. Talk about making an entrance. I mean, Bacon really goes all out here. A chariot of cedar and crystal, adorned with sapphires and emeralds, plumes, attendants fanning him.
A true spectacle.
Yeah.
And completely intentional. This is how they show their respect. In Ben Salem, scientists, researchers, they're the real celebrities.
Right. Makes our research labs look like, boring old labs, I guess. And what they're doing at Salomon's House is, let's just say, impressive. Bacon describes technologies and practices that seem straight out of, science fiction.
It's what makes reading Bacon so fascinating, even today. He was a man of his time, sure, but he was able to envision things way beyond what anyone else could even imagine.
Okay, so get this. Caves of several depths. Basically, they can control temperature, air pressure, all sorts of things to run experiments, trying to, recreate natural processes to make new materials.
Think about it. This is centuries before modern labs, controlled environments. Bacon was right there at the forefront of understanding how science works.
Exactly. And then they have these like high towers for observing the weather and the stars. Okay, that's kind of normal, I guess, but then it gets really wild. They have engine houses that can create immense power and speed. It's like he's describing engines, maybe even cannons, way before their time.
Bacon understood that knowledge wasn't just about understanding the world, but about using that knowledge, to push boundaries. He wanted to improve humanity's condition.
And he just keeps going. He talks about perspective houses where they're playing with light, creating illusions, almost like early forms of photography or something. But perhaps the most unbelievable thing he describes is their sound houses.
Sound houses.
Yeah, places where they can amplify sound, distort it, even record it. It's like he predicted recording studios centuries before electricity.
Imagine showing him a modern music studio with all the technology we have now to manipulate sound.
Right. He'd probably say, I told you so.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. He also mentions that they've figured out ways to extend human lifespan. Now, we're still working on that one, but it shows you just how ambitious they were. They didn't just want to understand the world. They wanted to, perfect it.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the fantasy of it all. But what's really important is that Bacon attributes all this progress to observation, experimentation, collaboration, to science.
It's like he's giving us a blueprint for scientific progress, and we're still following it, centuries later. So Salomon's House is all about human ingenuity, this pure desire to learn and, make the world a better place. But things get even more interesting when you start to look at how this scientific utopia handles something like family. Speaking of family, one thing that really jumped out at me about Ben Salem was this event they have, the Feast of the Family. It's like a massive celebration honoring families that have 30 or more living descendants.
Yeah, it's hard to even imagine that many relatives getting together these days.
I know, right?
Hmm.
But it's more than just a family reunion. It's this whole symbolic ritual highlighting how important family is to them.
Absolutely. The whole thing is presided over by the Tirsan, the head of the family, and they even have this special role, the son of the vine.
Okay, the son of the vine. Tell me more about that.
So the son of the vine, he represents the family's future, right?
Hmm.
And he gets this gift from the king himself, a golden cluster of grapes. But here's the thing, the color of the grapes actually means something.
Oh, what? Like some kind of secret code?
Kind of. Like purple grapes mean the family is mostly male, and greenish yellow means it's mostly female.
That's so interesting. It's like a family crest, but with fruit.
Exactly. And it's not just a one-day thing either. For 2 whole days before the feast, the Tirsan, they have to mediate any family arguments, make sure everyone's taken care of, even counsel anyone who's, straying from Ben Salem's moral code.
Wow. So it's like family therapy meets social enforcement all rolled into one.
It really shows you just how intertwined the ideas of family and society are in Ben Salem. Strong families equal a strong society.
It makes you wonder, though, is there room for individuality in a system like that? With so much emphasis on family and tradition, it's like, do you really get to choose your own path?
That's a great question. And it's something that Bacon explores a bit through the character of Joabin, remember him? The Jewish merchant who gives us that outsider's perspective on Ben Salem.
Yeah, Joabin. I loved his take on things, especially his observations about how Ben Salemites view marriage and, well, everything to do with that.
Yeah, like the fact that they find prostitution totally abhorrent, right? They're all about chastity and fidelity, even within marriage.
And then there's the whole thing with the Adam and Eve's pools. Basically, potential marriage partners, they check each other out before tying the knot in the nude.
It sounds strange to us, but for them, it's about transparency. No surprises.
It's like, forget Love is Blind, not in Ben Salem. They're all about full disclosure, even when it comes to love. But, okay, while they're all about openness within their society, their view of the outside world, well, that's a different story.
It's one of the biggest mysteries about Ben Salem, isn't it? Why stay so isolated?
I know. You'd think with all their knowledge, they'd want to, share it, help the rest of the world catch up.
Right. But remember what the father of Salomon's house said. They're happy to learn from the outside world, but they don't want to engage with it directly.
Right. The whole Merchants of Light thing, like sending out spies to gather information.
They'd rather observe from a safe distance, protect what they have.
But what about those 13 people who actually left Ben Salem? They chose to go back to their own countries, knowing what they knew about this amazing place.
Now, that's a story I would love to hear. Can you imagine going back to a world that's centuries behind after experiencing Ben Salem? What would you even do with that knowledge?
Right. Did they try to tell people to, I don't know, warn them, inspire them? Or was it just too much, too different to even explain?
That's the question Bacon leaves us with, isn't it?
It's like he's saying, here's this amazing world I created, a utopia,
Yeah,
but is it really perfect? What would you do?
exactly. And honestly, that's what makes the new Atlantis so brilliant. It's not just a story. I don't know, it's like a challenge.
It makes you think about the world differently, about knowledge, about progress, about what we're willing to sacrifice for a better future, or if such a thing is even possible.
Deep stuff.
It really is. So, to anyone listening, if you haven't checked out the new Atlantis, do yourself a favor and dive in.